Without further ado, let's thank a gentleman who's flown thousands of miles just to come here and see us. As I mentioned earlier, he does have some of his books available at a special discounted price. And if you get a chance, ask him about the costs of flying here and how to save a little money next time you come from England to the States. So Adam, without further ado, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening for everybody around the world. And thanks everybody here for inviting me over to Dallas to give you the talk.
Adam, can you stand close to the microphone?
Yeah.
Or move the microphone up?
Or do you want a handheld?
Let's see if I can get
I'm going to move that up a bit.
same there.
Yeah, I tend to walk around a bit. I'll stay still.
Sorry, I was short.
Or
Okay.
I could put a lavalier on.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Is that better? Okay. Yeah, so thanks for inviting me over. Hope you enjoy the talk. Few of you, especially you UK guys, will have seen some of this before, but I've changed it around and added some more sections in for later in the talk. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask them as they come up. Sometimes you've got to wait half an hour, 40 minutes to ask questions, but it gets everybody then a bit more involved if you ask as we go along. Okay, so following presentation on the designs and shapes produced by Shelley and Maybel Lucie Atwell between 1927 and 1959. After the success with the Hilda Cowan range of nursery wear, Shelley were eager to expand on the success and engage the services of Maybel Lucie Atwell. Atwell was already an established illustrator, well known for her book illustrations, postcards, and her fairies known as boo-boos. That's just a sample of some books and postcards there, of which some of the designs you'll see in a while were taken from. There we have the first advert that Shelley produced in 1926 for the range of China. So she was commissioned by Shelley to produce a series of drawings. From the initial drawings provided, 6 were chosen for release. They were registered jointly by Shelley and Mrs. Earnshaw, which was Lucie Atwell's married name, in June 1926. The first recorded advertisement for the series appeared in the Pottery Gazette, dated 1st of September 1926, and urged retailers to stock up for an anticipated high demand. And on the 1st of January 1927, an exclusive agreement was signed by the two parties for a period of 3 years, with an option to extend for a further period if both parties agreed. Drop down a bit, is it? The commission rate for the sales was set at 5%. So here we have Series 1, first released in December 1926, consisting of 6 designs. Each design was given a different colour trim, which initially was used on all pieces produced carrying that particular design. So here we have designs 1 to 6. And a selection of the nursery wear carrying those 6 designs. At the same time as the first 6 designs were released, a novelty tea set was also released. This was known as the Boo Boo Mushroom Set and consisted of a mushroom house teapot, sugar bowl, saluting pixie milk jug, which a lot of you will recognise. Following on, in 1921, Shelley commissioned a second series and extended their exclusive agreement for a further 3 years. Known as the Animal Series, it was marketed for kiddies who will have animals and nothing else. As with Series 1, the 6 designs were released, each one again having the same matching trim. selection of the pieces there again. As with Series 1, a novelty tea set was also introduced. It consisted of a duck teapot, chick sugar bowl, and a rabbit jug, all dressed in sailor suits. The sugar bowl there shouldn't actually have that lid. It fitted so nicely and it looked good. So I left it in. Third series was introduced in 1932, as were the previous 12 designs. Each one had a colour trim, but this time, design 15 changed from a dark yellow to a lighter yellow. And there's this one here. There's a selection again of those pieces. At the same time, the 6 new designs released, a cruet set was added to the Boo Boo mushroom range, as shown. And the chamber pot was also introduced and came in 4 base colours, yellow, blue, pink, and green, applied to the handle and the inside rim. And although not common, there was also sort of colour applied in a light wash to the top and bottom of the main body, which is on the centre top one. You can't, maybe you can see it in that picture. And it's like a colour washout from the top to the bottom. They are very unusual to find, but again, it did do them in the 4 base colours. And in 1937, soon after, Series 4, again, as with the previous designs, the same colour trims were used, keeping to that lighter yellow for design 21. Selection again of the different pieces. Okay, at the same time, the elusive preserve pots were introduced to the range and listed in the 1938 catalogue was available in 3 sizes. To date, or when I wrote this, I've only recorded the medium size, but I've now actually found 1 large size without a lid. So they are really, really difficult to find. Okay, and at the same time, the serviette rings were also added to the semi-China range, which was available with various part designs. So all the part designs taken from the main designs, little sections of them. But again, with the 6 same colour base trim. On the preserve pots, they also did tend to sometimes have a coloured rim, and sometimes they didn't. And sometimes the rim was on the pot itself and not the lid. So why Shelley did that, I don't know. But in my book, I've called them different versions because maybe they were released at different dates.
What are you calling serviette ring? What is that?
Napkin ring. Yeah, napkin ring. The larger size chamber pot was also introduced in the same 4 base colours as the smaller version. In a catalogue dated 1938, they were now available with a special box for an additional 9 pennies for the small size and 1 shilling for the larger size. Can't convert that into dollars and cents, but it wasn't very much. And there's the 2 sizes there to see the difference of them. Off the top of my head, I think the small one's 7 and the large one's 9 inches. Yeah. 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 It's, I mean, the rumour has it, one is a girl's potty and one is a boy's potty. I'm not sure that's really right because they came in all the different colours. And generally, if you do a boy's pattern, it's blue and a girl's pattern's pink. So I think they were just 2 different sizes for smaller and larger children. At the same time, changes were made to the Boo Boo Mushroom House series the saluting Boo Boo Pixie was replaced with the standard jug. And in a letter from Shelley to Maybel Lucie Atwell in 41, the reason was given, it was very difficult to clean. Probably not easy to produce either, but that was the reason in a letter between Maybel Lucie Atwell, her agent, and Shelley. And additional items were also introduced. Covered jugs, which I haven't got a picture of. The orange or lemon squeezer or juice squeezer, which we saw earlier. And the bit that a lot of people like, is the Boo Boo night light. That was, I mean, at the time, I think something like 10 shillings as a retail price, which was a heck of a price to pay.
These images, I don't need to be taking pictures right now if I'm planning on buying this book.
No,
Right?
no, they're all in there.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, they're all in there. Series 5A in 1940, despite the outbreak of World War II, Shelley requested a new set of designs. Various designs were submitted by Atwell, and after 12 months of correspondence, the following designs were released circa 1941. There were some more patterns that were submitted, but I'll go on to those in a little while. There are the 6 patterns. And a selection of them there. And in 1959, despite multiple decisions on bringing a new series to market, a decision was made by Shelley and Simpson's Potteries, which I'll go on to in a while. That they would drop designs 25 and 26, which are the top 2, and introduce 2 new designs that Atwell had submitted over the previous 3 or 4 years. And there we have the logo for this weekend's seminar. And another selection, again, with those patterns. Okay, as well as the main 32 designs, as mentioned earlier, multiple part designs were used on egg cups, serviette, napkin rings, mocha cups and saucers, and as space fillers on larger items like teapots, chamber pots. The majority were small parts of the main designs, but there were also 4 unique designs that were used. And that's the 4 designs shown there that don't appear anywhere else on any pattern. Got a selection of footed and flat-based egg cups. Again, still using those same colours, but they didn't actually always correspond to the part pattern that was used back to the original trim colour of the part pattern used, so you mixed them up a bit. And there we have the egg cups with trays, and there were 2 designs on these. Some had a pattern, the rhyme at the top here, you can just see it, and others just had pattern. There were 2 distinct ranges of those. And there was a selection of sort of later patterns using the designs from 5A. Mocha cups and saucers came in 2 different sizes, each decorated with multiple part designs from the series 5A and trimmed with either C4, water green, or C8 in pink. Trim variations, as previously shown, there was a standard trim colour with a corresponding design for each of the 6 designs between 1927 and 1940. And the table below gives the colours that have allocated to each one. And thanks to Chris Devonport, who's used those colours in his book. I've just given him an ascending number moving forward. But there were exceptions to these standard colours. As we heard in an earlier talk, Lawley's often commissioned special designs from various manufacturers and potteries around Stoke. with Shelley being no different. You can see we've got an orange, we've got dark blue. They were the main two colours, and they were always backstamped Lawleys. Okay, and other items with alternative colour trims have been recorded without the Lawleys backstamp. So it can be concluded as the high-end producer of foam bow in China that Shelley was renowned for. Individual customers could probably order any design in any colour to special order. Shelley were well known for being very bespoke in what they did. And if a customer wanted it and they had the patterns or the lithographs, they would do it. And then special commissions that Shelley produced. It's hard to know whether some of these were done by the factory or done by the retailer. That one is over the glaze. That one is under the glaze. So clearly that was done by the factory. This one again under the glaze and was done as a special commission for that Member of Parliament. We probably gave them as Christmas giveaways. Probably did a whole batch of them. Another special commission was this tea set. It was made especially for the granddaughter of a Shelley factory worker using the Ripon and Mayfair blanks. Blanks being the base shape. All the pieces were decorated with design 29, along with the matching rhyme, except for the cups, which instead of the rhyme, were decorated with part designs of the boo-boos. See on those three there. Unlike the original design, the trims were decorated in water green, which is a turquoise blue, rather than the pink, which is the colour that they were first released with. So this is a totally bespoke piece. Whether Shelley knew about it or didn't know about it, or it was blind-eyed or sanctioned, who knows?
We will never know.
We'll never know. No, we just know I bought it from the family and I got the backstory to it, which was great. Okay, we're going on to part 2 now. It's a new section for those that've seen it before. Okay, so after World War II, decorative china production was not a priority, except for export markets, and even this was limited, as many countries obviously had a decimated economy. Shelley had ceased its earthenware production, which saw almost 50% of the Maybel Lucie Atwell range discontinued virtually overnight. Bone china items from series 4 and 5 continued to be produced, but sales were not as they were before the outbreak of World War II for obvious reasons. So in circa 1945, and again, there's just very few records, there's some communications. I've got letters from the family, from the agent, from Maybel Lucie Atwell to Shelley to try and piece some of this together. But 6 new colours were introduced on the Series 4 designs, 19 to 24, and Series 5A, 25 to 30. The table below shows, again, the colours taken from Chris Davenport's book with my numbers there. So as I said, although there are no official records on why these designs were produced in alternative colours, it may have been to distinguish them for export home use. So if there were factory inspections, maybe they were, and so okay, you can clearly mark these as being exports of different colours. And personal experience is 90% of the pieces I've tracked down over the years have always come from the States or from the USA states, Australia. So it seems to bear out, but it's purely a theory. Okay, so the UK government gave concessions and tax breaks for goods that were exported, but those for home use carried a high tax rate, which was approximately 30%. And that went through to 1952, until war economy on paper, China was eventually fully lifted. In later dated April 1956, Maybel Lucie Atwell expressed her disappointment on the receipt of a royalty payment, which is some 65% less than she had received during the mid-1930s. This disappointment started a chain of communications on future production between Maybel Lucie Atwell, her agent Francis Mills, and Percy Norman Shelley. Maybel Lucie believed her china would sell better on a range of earthenware products and asked Shelley for their thoughts. But as Shelley had closed their earthenware production down, there was an assumption by them that she wanted to terminate the agreement and move to a factory. But more on this in a while. During these communications, there was also reference to a series of 12 new designs that she had submitted in roughly 1950. It could have been a lot earlier. For production on earthenware. But you know, there's a conundrum why she's submitted production for earthenware, knowing the factory had closed its earthenware production.
Doesn't matter.
Little unknown.
If you haven't put your laptop or iPad on mute, can you please put your laptop on mute, please? Thank you.
Question for you, Adam.
Yeah.
Do you have some notion as to why Atwell would have preferred her designs to be produced on earthenware rather than on bone china?
Number of sales, really.
But
Yeah,
is it-
price.
is it-
Yeah, price points. Earthenware was cheaper. Cheaper to do. Would reach a wider audience. Bone china, Shelley as a factory, very expensive. But she had a great affinity with Shelley. She never intended to stop producing with Shelley. I think she wanted to do an earthenware as well. And I think the communication, I think I've mentioned it here, but in my book, the communication really started to tip off between Shelley, Francis Mills, and Lucie Atwell. She was getting older. Francis Mills became suddenly ill and quit as her agent within weeks and just said, I'm not doing it anymore, sorry, and died within a month. So I think there was an awful lot of miscommunication. Shelley themselves, I'm not massively up on the Shelley history, but they were trying to introduce these new type of kilns, the top hat kilns, I think they were called. So I think there was just a lot of things going on at that point in time, and the communication never really got as to exactly how they were going to do what they thought they were going to do.
Did Atwell not live close to the Shelley factory?
No, at that point she had moved to Foy in Cornwall. Which is right down in the southwest of England. That was, well away from Stoke. Yeah, she still made regular odd trips to the factory, but most of it is done on communication. Her agent was in London, but she moved to Foy in, I think, just after the war. So these particular plates I found at the Shelley Atwell family's archives. They are Shelley plate, the bone china, but they're actually hand-coloured card. Quite thin card, they've been stuck on. And they're called mock-ups. And they would have been the first stage, I figure, as to what a plate or the design would have looked like. But you can see that they are totally different to the previous set. Whoops, wrong button. There's 4 more. This one here you'll recognise, which did become one of the designs, but you can see the design was quite different, but still recognisable. The various communications were conducted between the parties from April 56 to November 58 on producing a new range of designs. Eventually, in December 58, Shelley made the decision to keep the 4 designs from Series 5A and introduce 2 new ones, that being Fisherman Joe and Cowboy James. And those then were produced, and in January 1959, a new set of lithographs were produced, as shown on the sample plate. So most of those 12 designs, of which I only found 8, that were submitted sometime 1956. Only 2 of them we think were were put into production. Okay, we're going on to other manufacturers of the Shelley Maybel Lucie Atwell designs. Well, over the years, Maybel Lucie Atwell's designs for Shelley have appeared on items produced by other manufacturers, some which were official and others dubious, to say the least. The original license agreement signed in 1927, renewed every 3 years, specifically stated the artist retains all copyrights and trademarks relating to her designs and name. And she was very hot on this. I mean, she died, she was 85, and she was still writing letters of desist when she was 83. And she'd taken over most of her own management by then. She had got another management team in, but she still was very, very on the ball. So what we're about to see now opens up more questions on how some of these things came about when she was so adamant her designs weren't going to be messed with. So Simpson's Ambassador, or Soliumware, she produced circa 1956. When she originally went to Shelley saying, can we produce something on earthenware? Shelley initially thought that was the end of the agreement, but what she meant is, can you source another factory or join with another factory or move production to another factory as a joint venture and then keep the bone china range as well, share the lithographs. Lithographs, producing on earthenware and bone china doesn't really mix. It's difficult to get the firing right. The lithographs have to be, so I'm told, slightly different for the different mediums. So there's a lot of assumption and miscommunication between the parties in bringing a range of earthenware items to market. Assumption that by Shelley that they could use the lithographs freely, by Simpson's that a trial range they made could be produced and sold worldwide, and then, as I said before, the sudden retirement due to ill health of her agent. So everything around that period was very up in the air. Same as Simpson's made these items and just immediately started to sell them from the lithographs that Shelley gave them, which was contrary to all the agreements that should have been in place. There's a selection there. Okay, selection of items. So eventually, despite all the hurdles, they produced a range between 1956 and 1958 using the designs 25 to 30. And then in 1959, they shared the lithographs, Simpson's and Shelley. We assume by that point that Maybel Lucie Atwell had agreed to that, but I found no communications past 1958. The family had lost them, or communications were done over the telephone. So we can only assume that it was officially sanctioned, which it must have been, because royalty checks were given. She would have said, well, why am I receiving a royalty check for something I didn't agree to? Royal Albert. Then in 1967, as we know, the factory shut in 1966.
Y'all should know that.
Yeah. So there would have been a lot of lithographs left over. Now, whether they were included in the sale to Allied Potteries or whether they weren't, again, on going by the agreement with Maybel Lucie Atwell, they shouldn't have been transferred. But maybe she sanctioned them, maybe she didn't. They produced 3 pieces using the designs, and again, the quality's pretty good on them, so I think they were officially done.
To clarify, Allied Potteries is Royal Albert a subsidiary?
No, Allied Potteries are a conglomerate. So they owned Royal Dalton, they owned Royal Albert,
Okay.
they bought Shelley, they owned they bought a lot of the minor potteries up. They probably assumed that by buying Shelley, they bought all the rights, which they may have done. Here we have a group of tiles made by the Shelley Group UK for the 2000 AGM. Now were transfers donated to the group, I believe by Ray Reynolds, who was a former decorating manager. I think at that AGM as well, people were given some of the lithographs and tried to put them onto China, or actually made them and did the lithograph process. There's another range, Oakley Ceramics, which was done by Chris Davenport between 2000 and 2005. They only used designs 27 to 50 to 32. I'm to believe that Ray Reynolds just saved all those lithographs from the skip dumpster. Wood's ivory ware. It looks circa 1930s. It's got that feel and look. To date, I've not been able to find any records that these were officially manufactured. And this was at the height, if they were 30s, this was at the height of the Shelley manufacture. So very unlikely that Shelley or Atwell would have wanted this to go ahead. And the quality is not good. It failed to meet various stipulations that she would have insisted on. Firstly, the colours are wrong. You've got the two plates there, much darker blue on the dress. And the designs are mixed. That's design 5 and that's design 2. It's unlikely Atwell would have permitted the design to be messed with. The rim, she probably wasn't overly bothered, but I can't see her allowing the design to be mixed up. And for the eagle-eyed, none of them are signed. And I've never found a piece that's been signed that's produced by Woods. And there's some other pieces by other manufacturers again. We've got Tuscan ware, Empire, that's really not very good quality at all. Crown Staffordshire, similar thing with the colours being off. And then the top two Nelson ware. You know, what they do have that the others don't is the rhyme. None of the others had the rhyme. And they're pretty good quality and the colours are pretty good. So whether they were sanctioned, again, don't know. But they're the Animal series. And they have only really appeared, the Nelson ware stuff, with the Animal series, which wasn't very popular. It was a real, not a good seller for Shelley at all. Okay, we're going to the next section now. Some of these were produced to deceive and others probably not. So like in the style of Maybel Lucie Atwell, they are not Maybel Lucie Atwell. They're often sold by resellers Atwell. I think it's the sellers, the manufacturers didn't, I don't think, ever mean for these to be classed as Atwell. But the Sadler ware teapot is always when it's described as being Atwell, even by auction houses. So some box sets have appeared over time as well, and there's no mention on the box cover to it being Atwell. So again, the manufacturers weren't doing this to deceive. These, on the other hand, are total out and out fakes. They carry a Shelley back stamp, and they were produced in the 1990s. The back stamp's blurred. There's actually a piece next door on the shelf that people can see. They're post. Sorry? Do we know who made them? No. No, they were just made in, they were made in Stoke. They're very big. That plate, both those plates are about 9–10 inches. Teapot's very big, and they made vases. And they're all postcard designs. So they are actually Atwell, but they were just scanned and put onto the plate. But I've also seen these with non-Atwell designs as well, but still saying Maybel Lucie Atwell and still carrying a Maybel Lucie Atwell, Shelley back stamp. Had they applied for a license, and when I did the research for the book, I met up with Maybel Lucie Atwell's great-grandson, who currently owns all the licensing. And he said, had we been approached, we probably would have granted a license for that. And they could have made them officially and sold them officially. that's it for the China. So we're going to go on to the figurines. Any questions on the China before we move on to figurines?
The characters, whether they're animal characters or human characters, have a name? You
No.
say Cowboy James, for example.
It was just called Cowboy James because of the description at the top. The rhyme at the top said, "Here's Cowboy James up to his fun and games." So they all had here's the Bluebird sings. So people just tend to call it the Bluebirds, Cowboy James, Fisherman Joe, relating to the rhyme at the top. What was the other part? Sorry, the other part of the question. Yeah. Okay. We're going on to figurines. This is a real minefield. It's going to need an awful lot more research. But with research, you've got to be able to find the paperwork to back up your research, and that's where it gets difficult. We'll start with when it started. 1937, first figurines were introduced. There were 7 Boo-Boo figures, little guys in green, and there were 9 childhood figures. They were all numbered LA1 to 19 and appeared in an advertising leaflet of the same date. For some reason, LA2, LA3 and LA4 were not illustrated or listed. Why that was, don't know. But they did appear later. And there's your 7 Boo-Boos. And they were all taken from the Boo-Boo books released in the 1920s in their traditional green suits. Childhood figures. A bit cheeky. They were all inspired by postcards or book illustrations. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, so you can see they're all directly taken. The LA2 and LA3 were then introduced. LA4 was a curate. LA2 and 3 was a figurine called the toddler. And at some point there were model variations. Here see the 2 different versions of the bride and the 2 of the groom. The groom, the hair mainly. The bride, as you can see the veil all the way down. The veil there around the head. There's no mention why the model variations were done in any sales literature. With other manufacturers, figurines or model variations generally made due to a production issue. If a decision is made to change the model for any reason, it would generally be given a new number. But in this case, they're not. So there is no version 1. That's just me putting version 1 and version 2. There is nothing on the base as to why they changed those versions.
Maybe Winston Churchill on the far wrong.
Yeah. You know, again, there's an element of conjecture that the 2 variations, which is this one and this one, may be fakes, but I don't think so. The quality is good on most of them. I don't think they're fakes.
You do think they are?
I don't think they are, no. And there we've got a figurine where it varies again. So in version 1, an original with good detail. The bow and the dog, the facial details are more detailed. The girl has rosy cheeks and knees, highlighted eyebrows and buttons decorated on the back of the dress. See there? And the dog's got a bow. It's fully painted, eyes, nose, everything. And you go to the next one. They've changed it. They've removed the buttons. The dog's bow's missing. The head's more tilted. So there's a definite decision to make that model different. But it still carries the same LA9 number. And here we have colour variations. And again, no information on colour variations or colourways as they are known. Only assumption again is they were possibly special commissions. Blue one was a general release. That one's definitely genuine, and that is the sample figure given by Shelley to Maybel Lucie Atwell for sign off, which I was lucky enough to be able to purchase from the family. That was a lovely piece to get. These two. Okay, is that better? Yeah, sorry, I keep moving. And two different colorways there, in green and in brown. Further color variations here of our pets. So again, I assume that there were special commissions or customers could request them to be painted up. They're all hand painted, so they could be painted in any color. Here we go with the blue. The Gardener's Boy, LA22, Patricia, LA21, had been added to the childhood range circa 1940, and then the 7 Boo Boo figurines were then produced in blue suits rather than green. They were given new LA numbers, 23 to 29. Again, no official records, but this colour change may have been to distinguish them for overseas markets. But that said, there's a lot of them appear in the UK as well as overseas. So I'm not sure that really ties in, unlike the China, which 95% of the colourways are found overseas. At the same time or soon after the colours were changed, an additional range of Boo Boo figures was
Mermaid.
given numbers LA30 to LA35. They never went into production.
Ah,
The only recorded set belongs to the Shelley family. And pictures are supplied courtesy of Chris, so thank you for that. One of these did appear on eBay about 4 years ago, and it was genuine. So there are some. And I think if you remember in the previous picture when I showed you the childhood figurines, I had a white one of that where it hadn't been painted. So they were produced in a very small quantity, but not officially released. That's just a selection of the figurines. It's all grouped together so you can see the difference in the sizes. And then during or post-war, some of the original figurines were discontinued. Based on the back stamps, it's probable that only the Golfer, Gardener's Boy, and Eyes Going Tatar and Our Pets remained in production. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks, Robert.
Okay, we're back. So say that Maybel Lucie Atwells could and were painted with an element of freedom. In an interview with Ray Reynolds, he confirmed there was a pattern book or pattern colour book for the figurines. In this, it's stipulated each one must have certain attributes, such as checked trousers, patterned dresses, eyebrows that arch upwards, eyelashes, and further details like bootlaces, buttons, and bows. So how do you tell? As a start point, you could look for the following: the Shelley back stamp, and the LA number and figurine title, generally in brown lettering. And there we see the Shelley back stamp, figurine title, the LA number, sometimes with copyright, sometimes with not. And Maybel Lucie Atwell's signature, generally or always on the upper base, sometimes painted, sometimes with a transfer.
Helps if it's spelled correctly.
Well, there we go. You must have seen this before. And there's one, if you can just see that, that's totally wrong. Also partly depends on your personal view of a genuine or a fake. So here we have two variations or versions of the Golfer. One on the left has a much more detailed bag there to there. The boots are a darker colour, the laces or the flaps of the golf shoes are more prominent. There are buttons on that belt, there are not there. So you can see there's distinct differences. So is this a fake or is it not? Not as well painted. They're identical heights, intimating they weren't done from taking a mould. Often they would take a mould of a figure, recast it, and it would generally shrink by about 12%. So it's rumoured Maybel Lucie Atwell would not allow seconds to be sold. But in an interview with Ray Reynolds, he confirmed that this was in fact not the case. Producing figurines was not cheap, and the reject rate was quite high. To recoup some of the costs, marked seconds identified with a painted black bottom and or base were sold to wholesale traders and Friday afternoon canteen sales. There we go. So these items were not production quality, but they were produced by the factory. So there, your opinion on whether it's a fake or not a fake, is it production quality as opposed to genuine quality? As with the seconds, figures that didn't make the grade, like painters' practice models and ones with slight imperfections, were also sold at Friday sales. Now we've got 3 of the same figurine. One in the centre is generally the correct one. This one, masses of detail missing. This one, a bit insipid with the colours. Dog's tongues missing. Bows. So you've got a difference all the way through here, but they're all identical in height. They are all, some are back stamped, some are not. Some contain Maybel Lucie Atwell on the base, some don't. So it's a real minefield. So with this information, how do we now see these colourways? Version 1, you know, was the official release colour. Meets all the criteria for a production model, except for the others, except being officially recorded. The quality, these both are in my collection. The quality is perfect, well painted. Name on the base, back stamps, everything is correct. That one, weirdly, isn't overglazed. The paint is on the top. But it's really well painted. So to summarise, a lot more research. Although thought through logically, there is a conjecture and guesswork on my part here. Some information has come from ex-factory workers or their families, but these may have been distorted over time. So unless long lost records like this infamous pattern book come to light, we may never know the answers. Okay. Just reiterating on that, there are genuine fakes, especially with the booby figures. They are horrendously painted and they are smaller. And if you collect the figures, you will know. It instantly jumps out. But the childhood figures, they're really tough to find. And I think when the factory was on its last legs, a lot of this stuff was probably just put out on the canteen sales or just sold off to try and maybe rescue the company, anything they could sell to recoup some money. And of course, once Allied Potteries took it over, they probably found a load of stuff in the stock rooms and thought, well, we're not just going to throw it in the dustbin, we'll sell it. So these figurines could have come out partially painted and were abiding by the rules back in the 1940s, but were just stuck in the stock room. At some point, someone decided enough's enough, let's sell them off, give them away. Just don't know, really don't know. That concludes talk so far.
There they are.
Okay, so any more questions?
Actually, Adam, I do have one. I understand you had special access to the family.
Yes.
Can you tell us how that came about and what you received?
Yeah, certainly. I contacted the license holder, which I knew was a family member, And he got back to me and said he'd be pleased for me to go and search through the archives. And myself and my wife went down there one weekend to his premises. Were shown down into a basement. Said, "There's a dozen filing cabinets. There's a load of boxes. Fill your boots. Do what you like. Just go through it all." So we spent nearly all day taking photographs of all the letters and all the communications. There were hundreds and hundreds of letters, obviously, regarding all of our other products, bed linen, postcards, but it all in chunks of years. It was quite a bit, sort of 1938 to 1940, and then quite a bit through the war. A few then sort of in the mid-50s, but then that became more and more patchy. So that's how I
That's
into,
pretty much it. No,
yeah, so I've
doesn't
got
get
all-
any better than that, I
so
guess.
the next thing I might do with their permission is sort of reproduce those letters, especially the Shelley ones. It's interesting historically. It talks about the war and what she was doing, what her agent was doing, and you know, he wasn't able to work today because he had parachute training, and you know, regrettably, the guy next door has just been killed in action. But it's all very matter of fact, the letters. But that's the era they were living in. But it's a good read, and trying to piece them together. Okay.
The fake rumors that were really poorly painted rumors, it seemed like they didn't actually show up till sometime in the 90s. They just seemed to come out of nowhere. It was pretty obvious you could see the difference in the painting.
Yeah.
I don't remember before that. I remember coming to that.
Yeah, I didn't really collect the figurines that early, but there is a rumor that there was someone up in the Manchester region, sort of northwest of England, that was producing some of these figurines. Maybe they had the original molds.
Yeah,
I mean, that's it just could have been any number of things. But to say, I've just used the method of looking at the sizes and putting them all together. The figurines that come up even now are quite expensive. You pay up to £500, £600, £700 plus. Back in the day, you were talking to £2,000 or £3,000 for a figurine. So good target for fakesters. But I've just collected as many as I can, as rough as they are, and just put them together on the table and tried to find differences. So I'd say there's an awful lot of conjecture really on it.
Adam, in the letters that you went through and the paperwork, did you encounter any mention of the levels of production? How many of these figures and plates, etc., of Maybel Lucie Atwell were produced? Anything in the records about that?
Not in exact numbers. The figurines, definitely not. The plates or nursery ware, could calculate it slightly using math by the royalties, the cost of what the product was against the royalties she received. I have gone into that in the book a little bit. But as I said earlier in the seminar, it was quite dramatically decreased post-war, mainly because of the earthenware. You know, the boo-boo tea sets were very, very popular. The potties, serviette rings, napkin rings, they're all stuff that sold well. The china was very upmarket, you know, I think at one point we're looking at it's like the equivalent of $1,000 for a 6-piece set for a child. Who would? But yeah, but they did back then. But they went to upper class families. Hence, Atwell's really sort of wishing to try and move into the earthenware market, or to put it back to where it was pre-war.
So would you say, for example, that there were, of the earthenware pieces, thousands that were produced? Tens of thousands? Hundreds?
I don't think it was ever tens of thousands. It's probably in the thousands.
Probably in the thousands.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Ask if there's any questions.
Okay.
Online.
Any online questions?
Wave your hand.
No.
There's something in the chat.
Oh, there we go.
She's got her
Is it
hand
Julie?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Thanks very much for your presentation. It was fantastic. So I've got a question. I was very interested to hear what you said. The grandchildren said about those fakes. And I wondered what you thought. So the fakes that we know are fakes, do you think it's okay that they're on the market? Do they have a historical value of their own, or should they be destroyed? What do you think?
What, as in, is it a fake or is it not? Against the one.
If you know it's one of those
fake.
fakes from the 1990s that has no, you know, there was a fake, as you said. Do you think they should be? We should destroy them, or is it okay that they're still out there misleading people? I suppose, or do they have an intrinsic value?
I think they have an intrinsic value.
Right.
For the amount of them that I've found so far, I don't think it's a major issue. I think the problem is more on what your personal view is against factory genuine items that are partly painted, as whether they're fake or not fake. It's a very personal view.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people won't collect something that wasn't an official released production, but it came from the factory. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It's more complicated than I'd realised.
It is. Yeah. You know, it is a very difficult subject.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Any more?
Jerry.
There we go, Jerry.
I don't know.
There doesn't appear to be a second page.
Awesome. Does anybody have any show and tell items that they want to show and share with us?
Or do you mercifully want to put me out of my misery?
Does anyone? Oh, is there a second page?
I don't see one. Oh, Jerry's waving again.
Oh, Jerry, hi.
Oh, he muted himself.
Yeah. It looks like you put something in chat.
All right, let's see.
There's something in the chat box.
There it is.
Show a, oh, he wants to show a fake that he has.
Oh,
Yes.
please do.
Yep, I know Jerry has one.
So,
Oh, there he is.
so if you look at Jerry's screen, you can see the fakes.
And then you can blow it up. You can select this.
Can you make Jerry's screen just?
Oh, you can spotlight it?
Yeah. Just select this thing. And then just hit those three dots. Yeah.
Okay,
There we
Jerry,
go.
Jerry,
Hey!
show us one more time. We have spotlight you. Can you lift up the fakes one more time, please? We can't hear you, but can you?
I don't think you can hear us now.
No, can you lift the fakes up?
It doesn't like us.
No,
There
there
we
we go.
go. Woo!
Perfect.
I guess no.
Yeah, and these are fakes because why?
Oh, one moment, please.
Badly painted.
Oh, that's crazy.
Okay.
You can't see anything on the bottom.
And this is a fake because?
I think it's just doing a show and tell on this.
Oh,
That's real.
That's real.
The hot water in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that particular warmer comes in two sizes.
Oh, Owen, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself, Owen?
There we go.
There, we can hear you.
I
You can
can't
speak
see her.
right there.
The vase. I
Oh.
don't know how. It's the only vase I've ever found with.
Yep.
I think it's the third series.
It is. Yep. It's genuine. Yep. I've got 3 others.
Wow, that's really.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It's part of the. It was normally done. Was it in the dripware, wasn't it? That stuff, I believe.
Yeah.
Should have a number on the bottom on the base. 7406 or something like that, is it, from memory? Imprinted. Yeah, there's a number just on the. Can't quite see
You
it.
can't quite see it.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, just in the right light. Just.
Is there an impress?
Oh, there.
Oh, there it
Yeah,
is.
Yeah.
impress number.
26 at the end.
Yeah. So that's the vase type and the size.
Okay, is that a large size for the kids? Like, that's pretty big for a kid.
But yeah, big. I think again, the thing with the Maybel Lucie Atwell stuff is the lithograph could have been put onto anything. If someone wanted it on there, they asked for it to be done, it would be done.
Yeah, for a birthday
you
party.
to-
probably all it is.
It could be anything, but the
Did you
vase
want
was probably
I
part of the
was- I can
series
remove
release
this
because
now.
I've got 3 others, that's number 4.
Okay.
So I think those 6 were done. And there was a bowl from the Dripware series as well that I've got. So I think they were released as a set.
Anyone else have any items they want to show us?
Jerry
again.
Right, can you hear me now?
Oh, my
yes.
yay, we could hear you.
Right, I've sorted out my mic. What I was going to say about these, this one, that's it, yes. In my very early days of collecting, I bought this at an antiques fair, and I congratulated myself because it was so cheap. And luckily, in the same antiques fair was a much more experienced collector who said, yes, well, you've just bought a fake. Anyway, I went back and saw the dealer who cut the price down, and I kept it. And what I've tried to show you but couldn't earlier is that this will have been made by taking a mold from the proper one and producing this. And I'm not sure if you could really see it, but it is just very slightly smaller, and actually the paintwork is awful. But the main thing is that any of these fakes that are made by taking a mold of the original, they will be that much smaller, as Adam said, about 12% or thereabouts. The other thing I was going to show you is I do have 2 of the actual figurines. This one, I think, is I'm really not sure whether they're meant to be the original paintwork or not, but anyway, I'm very happy with both, and they do have the proper back stamp and the number on the bottom. So I'm glad you could hear me this time.
They're both genuine because I've seen them in your collection. They're both good.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, anybody else from the peanut gallery?
Peanut gallery.
All right. Well, on that cheerful note then, I'm going to sign off from Zoom. I'll bid you all a fond farewell.
1 second, we're going to show you Dallas one more time.
Say bye.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, nice.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
And if I were you, I'd think twice before trying to do this again.
It works, sort of.
Yeah, sort of. So good night and goodbye.